Welcome to New Year's Eve in southeastern Minnesota from a tiny town called Spring Grove. This is the home of Rachel and David Storley, and we have been cooking up a storm tonight in their traditional Norwegian style. We have a little outdoor holiday table set up for our friend Heidi, and when she and her partner arrive, we will dine here like kings on the traditional Jule and Påske Christmas and Easter dish called Pinnekjøtt. I took the stock from yesterday's mash. Remember what it's called? KÅLRABISTAPPE. I took the broth off of my porch where it kind of started crystallizing overnight. Remember, this is the result of rutabaga, carrot, and baby red potatoes. And I'm going to add to it the things that are on this cutting board that I've prepared. We have celery, 4 bay leaves, fresh thyme. I've got 2 crushed cloves of garlic, 1 onion, 2 allspice berries, and a little handful of black peppercorn. So let's add them to our stock, which is now starting to simmer. I'm gonna just put this whole bunch of parsley, like a bouquet garni, into there. And now I'm going to just upend everything else that remains and hope that it hits the mark. All right, I got a little extra onion here stuck, but I'll get it with my fingers. There we go. All right, and a little swirl and twirl with a utensil to get it down in there. Now you may want to add a couple more carrots, which sadly I ran out of carrots. I'll look again in my fridge, but I ran out of carrots, but that's already in the stock from yesterday, so I think it's gonna be okay. And we're just gonna cover this up. By the way, if you don't own one of these, they are fantastic. Gonna cover it up and let it continue simmering for about 1 hour. I just drained off the water from our Pinnekjøtt, and as you can see, they have really nicely reconstituted overnight. I read a couple more blogs, and it says to drain off the water 1 to 3 times before we do our next step. So I just gave it a nice rinse, and now I'm going to refill it with cold water and set it back out in our front area that is probably around 55 degrees.
You decide the angle.
All right, this is David Storley, my husband, and he is at our old house in Spring Grove, where we have fabulous renters that love Giants of the Earth, by the way. And he is going to work on this big birch branch. And by big, I mean just the right size for Pinnekjøtt. And in fact, the part that's swinging low by his lower body is probably a little too big, but we're still going to use this. We're going to cut it into smaller sections, get rid of all the twiggy stuff, and then we've got to peel the bark off and put it into our roasting pan in a crisscross manner, like building a little flat fire out of sticks. Thanks, David.
And like here?
Sure. That one is really good.
Now it'll fit.
All right, we'll get these loaded onto our truck and do a little bit more cleanup and get those little tiny straggly strands off, and then bring them back to our house. Good work.
Thank you.
Hey, look what we just found at our old house garage. It's the candles that David made with Janelle Holte Halverson at Julekalender, which was held right here on the back deck. So tonight, when we have our Pinnekjøtt feast, we will light these candles in honor of New Year's Eve. So here we are. I just have trimmed up my birch branches and I've got some odd diameters, so I'm gonna have to be a little creative when I stack these in my pot. But the next step is to get this bark off. So I'm all set up in front of our home in Spring Grove, and I've got this knife out, and I don't know if this is gonna be a good selection or not. The goal is to get the bark off of our birch sticks. Pinnekjøtt means stick meat, and that is because of two factors, some people would say. Number one, it is steamed over birch sticks, and number two, the ribs themselves, now that they've been cut, look almost like sticks. So there's a twofold meaning to this pinne word, the Norwegian word for stick. And this is very green wood, so I'm just gonna try to get the bark off as best I can here. And thank you to my sister-in-law Jill for this lovely Norwegian knife. I hope you're not appalled at the way that I'm utilizing it, but it's going into a really wonderful Norwegian dish, so I think that can't be a bad thing. So here's David again, and he decided that we needed to use a hatchet. Tell us more, David.
This hatchet is very sharp. Our Norwegian knives, although they were sharp when I got them, they are dulled down a little bit and I haven't sharpened them up. So I knew this was new, and also gives a much safer grasp to our work. And there's some little sticks to hack off. It also works pretty well for the narrow ones, surprisingly. And wearing good gloves is very important here too.
Unlike what I was doing before.
Norwegian mittens, Norwegian knives, they're all good things.
Green. Maybe we could use this as kindling in our fire pit later today. We have discussed possibly starting a fire in order to sear the pinnekjøtt, because we're going to prepare it in two different ways. And do you think that's still a good idea?
I think it'll be fun.
I think it'll be fun too. So we're gonna have a little bonfire here in the Storley yard. Also, just because it's fun and tasty and about that time of day, I have brought out some kaffestua, some coffee time treats. So we've got our Americano coffee, we've got a clementine, and we've got this gorgeous cinnamon walnut swirl crumble cake that my mom gave us for a little treat during the holiday. But I will continue to let David do this work with the hatchet. He seems very fond of this work, so I will not take that away from him. And thank you so much, David.
I will let you try it because it is fun.
Good, all right. But I should probably wear your gloves too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And not aim toward my my thumb. Oh yeah, this is so nice. So much nicer than that other process. A sharp little hatchet. Fun. Good call, David.
That's not a knife.
This
This
is a
a
knife.
knife. Okay, so now David's using a different knife. What's the deal with this one? This
What-
looks mega.
Well, it's kind of more dangerous, much more dangerous. But I wanted to try it out. I made it in high school, and haven't really used it. I stored it improperly, so the handle got a little moldy one year. But it's still sharp because I haven't really used it, and it's a nice big Spanish blade. And it's I guess it would be like a Bowie knife.
It's doing a beautiful
And it's doing a
job.
nice job, but this is also a very nice stick too, so that helps. But it does get down where those other knives were just not sharp enough to really do a good job. The special thing that this knife can do is the back gouging, where we can get all the things from the inside without having to go backwards. It's like a double duty here.
Cool.
So this one is done. Ready for the pinnekjøtt.
Very nice. Veldig bra jobb. Want some coffee?
Yes, please. Yum. So why don't we want the bark?
I'm not sure. Nobody has been writing about why we don't want the bark.
I would guess it would burn with, like, it would burn easier, and then
it would sully the water.
Yeah,
I
and it would take. Yeah, I suppose, and it would add so much flavor to it, where this clean wood probably doesn't.
Yeah, and you know, in Norway, the sticks that they buy in the store to make their pinnekjøtt are, you know, like it just looks like highly manufactured wood blocks that you would actually whittle with, and the diameter of them is about 1 inch, and they're little square sticks that have been factory trimmed. And so I think we're really doing this just the like old-fashioned way, and really the way that many people don't take the time to do it, but it feels more authentic this way, and it feels more like it goes with the spirit of this whole process of experimenting with this with Heidi and Radical Heart Farms and her sheep ribs. So I kind of feel good about the fact that we're doing everything kind of this old-fashioned, non-technologically advanced way, and we may learn from our mistakes, and you know, people can comment on our video too after we've posted it on Facebook and on our webpage. They might have some inside tricks and tips for us to do this at home better as well. So if you're one of those people that has some feedback, please don't hesitate to leave it for us in the comment section. But we're having fun anyway. I mean, we've got coffee, we've got a nice winter day, we've got cake. I mean, it's not like life is bad here, right, David?
All of our blood is still in our veins.
That's because Rachel's not doing any cutting. Well, that went pretty well. I'm really, really excited that I got to use this hatchet today. And I'm super excited that David did such a great job with me. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Show us your little pile of pinner.
Pinner.
Pinner. Look at those beautiful birch sticks. Robbed of their bark, which we'll use as kindling. For you Midwesterners who know what I'm talking about, the outdoors becomes nature's refrigerator in the wintertime. So this I just pulled from my porch. It is our KÅLRABISTAPPE, and I'm going to take a pretty big portion of this out and transfer it to this container, which is oven safe, and make a base layer in here for Heidi and her partner so that they can have a nice meal. And then later on, we'll put pieces of the pinnekjøtt on the top and then layer some boiled potatoes and sauce on top of that so that they can have a nice to-go container for their New Year's Eve dinner. I was trying to configure these sticks in my pot, and I was having some problems because they were all a little too long. So David, who is trimming a downed tree branch from a storm that we had recently here, graciously cut them up in halves. So now I think it's going to work in my pot. I don't know if this is right. I'm guessing there's some method to the madness, but I'm just going to begin by putting the largest ones down. And really what we're doing is trying to build a little grid, and we'll do some of them then this way. And maybe I can go crossways like this. So I'll keep working on this, and then when I'm done with my little grate, I'll show you again how it turned out. So this is what I ended up with. I ended up foregoing usage of some of our bigger sticks. These just were not working out very well in my pot. But as you can see, I've crisscrossed 3 simple layers, and I'm going to now fill this up with water just until the underside of the highest branch line. And then we're gonna layer our pinnekjøtt on top of this and start steaming it. That That looks about right to me. We've got the water just up to the bottom line of the top layer of branches. So, time to add our meat. I just drained our Pinnekjøtt and it is looking nice and plump and ready. And by the way, yesterday I made this big deal out of using our vegetable stock from the KÅLRABISTAPPE in our Pinnekjøtt, but instead I decided that I'm going to try 2 different methods of cooking our New Year's Eve Pinnekjøtt. I actually used that broth and I added the things to it that you saw earlier. So this is just pure water, and maybe that's for the best because apparently the wood is going to add an aromatic essence to the meat as it steams anyway. And then we're going to use this stock as a boiling method and see which recipe we prefer by the end. So here we go. Let's just layer these Pinnekjøtt ribs on top of our little grate. Maybe I should do it like this. There we go. I'm gonna leave a little bit of room in between just for the steaming process. And I've got this. I don't want it to fall down in there. And again, I'm just going for about half of our total quantity into this pot. This leaves about half of the batch in our bowl, which we'll use in the boiling method. So I'm pretty satisfied with how this turned out so far. Time to start steaming. I just turned the heat up to high. I'm going to cover this until I sense that it is boiling. And at that time, I will offset the lid a little bit and keep steaming it for about 2 hours at a lower heat setting. At the same time, I'm going to start my stock up again. I made it a little earlier in the day and now I need to reheat it to boiling so that I can add this half portion of our Pinnekjøtt to it for the secondary method. I'm just checking back in on our stock. Well, it's pretty close. I'm gonna be able to add our Pinnekjøtt to that very soon. I wonder how things are doing in here with our birch stick process. Okay, well that's starting to simmer a little bit as well. Ooh, this is exciting. We are boiling. Woo! I'm gonna lift my little raspberry topper off here. And we're gonna add our half batch of reconstituted Pinnekjøtt to this boiling stock. Kind of tamp it down so we get it down into the vegetables. Cover the whole body of the meat. All right, back with our cute little cover. And we are going to, ooh, this is hard to use right now. Okay, we're going to let that boil for 1.5 hours or so. I'm gonna turn that down to about 3.5 and just leave the lid on so it keeps simmering. Meanwhile, we're still on high here. Ooh, it's working, ah! Okay, look at this. Birch branch heaven. I'm gonna do one more check. It's time to check one more time on our Pinnekjøtt that's on the sticks. I just wanna make sure that the water level is good and that it's at a nice simmer for steaming. And I think we're looking pretty golden. So according to my instructions, we just put the lid back on and let it simmer for 2 to 3 hours or until the meat begins falling off the bone. It has been about 1 hour and 20 minutes and we're gonna do a sneak peek in here. Make sure our water level is still adequate. Ooh, look at that, I'm glad we looked because we are way down on our water. So I'm gonna refill this and get back to you. I just refilled my water vessel and we will just carefully pour this up to that level of the bottom of the sticks. But take a look at the progress here of the steaming method. It's quite lovely. The meat is starting to separate a little bit from some of the bones, so it's becoming more tender. And let's just seal that heat up and get back to the boiling. I also want to carefully do a little check to see how our broth is doing. And here we go, a little sneak peek. Good, I'm just gonna leave that in there. It looks like it's simmering really nicely. And I'm gonna reset our timer for 1 more hour. Well, folks, the annoying timer just went off on my terrible noise that we all hate. Anyway, I'm excited about it because that means that our Pinnekjøtt has been boiling, well, I should say simmering, in the stock for 2 hours. And that is the time where we're gonna turn off the heat and just let it be until it is cool. So, exciting times. We'll also check on the Pinnekjøtt steamed style right now. Okay, right rear is where we've got the stuff going on right in here. So I just turned it off and we're gonna let that come to a cool and not even open that lid. On the other hand, I do wanna see what's going on with our, oh, look at that. This water just boils right off. This method of steaming can take up to 3 hours until the meat is falling off the bone. And I don't see that that's happening yet necessarily, although it's very tender indeed. So we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going with this process. But I am going to refill 1 more time. And because my screen is cloudy, we're just gonna be done and you trust that I did that. All right, I'm on another field trip outside of my house. I'm aiming for the edge of what was my garden this summer. It is covered in snow, but I'm on the hunt for something special that may or may not have survived. Oh my gosh, I see some of it. Look at this. Parsley. Yes, look at that. My parsley. I'm gonna pick what I can and then we're gonna use it in a parsley butter sauce. Stay tuned. Really crazy. Look at the color of this. Our snow is so recent and these were doing just fine until then. So they've just been covered by a little blanket of fluffy snow. I'm gonna use it. Welcome back to the Storley kitchen. I have little baby potatoes boiling in here. I hope I'm not offending anybody with my sheep's butt. We are done with our Pinnekjøtt. The steamed Pinnekjøtt falling off the bone. Very, very exciting. We're gonna use that liquid that is at the bottom after it has evaporated just a little bit more. I'm gonna use it to brush these ribs and then we're going to sear them and try baking them over the fire. Here's our scene. All of those good sort of marrowy, meaty juices have dropped to the bottom through our sticks of birch. And what we're going to do now is get these out of here carefully. And I'm going to transfer them to this cast iron pan. portion of this now are the birch sticks. And I'm going to transfer them out of this pan just so I can gain access to those yummy, yummy fats at the bottom of the pan. Because we're going to spread them atop our pinnekjøtt. If I can get them released. Oh, there we go. I may have to, oh my gosh, it's so crunchy down there. Here, I'll do this. I washed my hands like 90 times today, so I think we're okay. All right, here we go. Now, this is what we've got left. It's kind of a little crust down there. There's some fats and greases, but I'm gonna stir that up, and then I'm going to just water it down a little bit in order for us to brush it on top of our pinnekjøtt before we take it out to this fire that's raging in my backyard right now, thanks to David. I just added some liquid from our stock over here, and I'm going to whisk this up. All those good, yummy drippings are what we want to brush up. So I'm going to hopefully get a nice portion of that we can spread evenly around our ribs to kind of crunch them up at the end. The Norwegians like to crisp them after they have been steamed. Not everybody. Some people just eat it like we do a tender meat, like pulled pork. But I think I'm going to try this method as well, since it's so written about, so highly favored. Okay, with the help of our stock from the boiled pinnekjøtt, I have a really beautiful glaze here that I'm going to use with my pastry brush. Get my brush. Sorry about the shadows. I'm just going to slop up some of this stuff in my brush and put it right on here like this. I have learned in this process by reading a lot of Norwegians' blogs or Norwegian Americans who write now about this dish that this is equally served as a beloved dish at Easter, påske celebrations and dinners, which makes sense as well. So let's turn these over and repeat the process on the other side. We are done. I have covered with my little brush both sides of the pinnekjøtt, and now I've also used a little bit more of our vegetable stock to take advantage of these beautiful drippings at the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to thin this out even a little further so that we have a nice gravy for our potatoes and our pinnekjøtt. Welcome to David's New Year's Eve bonfire. We've got pink martini playing in the background. He just cut up these logs today.
And I split all these.
Ooh, I didn't even notice that. On our old church bench, we've got all sorts of logs over here.
Yeah, I didn't think that was the best place to sit tonight because the wind is blowing this way. These seats are perfect.
Nice.
And And so I've arranged everything,
Ooh.
readiness for the fire, and these are on standby,
Those
ready to
are
burn.
Beautiful.
So I can push the flames back when we start searing.
Yes, because we're gonna sear the Pinnekjøtt that I just glazed on our fire. We've still got our Christmas lights up, of course.
Sorry about that.
It's so cozy. And I just got confirmation that Heidi and her beloved are coming here after a full day of doing errands, and they're so excited to try the Pinnekjøtt. So we are excited as well, and we can't wait until they get here. It is 6:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve, and we have some guests that we invited over for a social distanced party. And look what I've got in my hand. That's right, a noisemaker. Happy early New Year's Eve, outdoor friends. Ooh, we're having a little bit of 18 and below or 21 and below
Cheers.
bubbly. Everybody look into the camera and say cheers.
Cheers!
Happy almost New Year. What a beautiful fire. What a beautiful friendship. Let's make some noise. Happy New Year's Eve. It's Heidi. And
This is Greg.
I'm Greg.
hey Greg, so nice to meet you. I'm Rachel. My husband David is over there. We've got the whole place decorated up for you. And we've got a little picnic table here, and we also have a wonderful fire and some friends if you want to meet them. We're all outside and masked, so I think it's gonna be great.
Good.
All right, I'm back inside. Our guests have arrived. They are outside at our fire. So I'm going to make the butter parsley sauce. I'm gonna squeeze in half of a lemon. It calls for 1 tablespoon of juice in the recipe. Fishing out those little seeds. That could be enough, but just for extra measure, I'm gonna get the rest of the liquid out of here. So I'm guessing that 1/2 of a lemon might be about a tablespoon of lemon juice. Get these little seeds out with my super old-fashioned spoon as I'm looking at this. I think it might be from the Civil War era. I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway, so get this going. I've got it on 3.5. That's not very high. 4. The biggest thing I learned in this recipe is that you don't want to accidentally burn this because it's a certain type of sauce. You have to get the temperatures really, really good. So we're gonna heat that up a little bit. I'm gonna start now putting in my pre-cubed stick of butter. And just cross your fingers that this goes really well, folks. Okay, ooh, this is kind of soft over here. It's been sitting out at room temperature. So here we go. I'm gonna drop that whole bunch right down in there. Get off there. Yeah, ooh, we got one little rogue butter right there. Okay, good. Now, just from earlier, remember how I was whisking that fat sauce reduction? I'm gonna go back to my whisk method. Just gently melt this. The lemon juice and butter need to emulsify, I believe is the term. Very gently. And this has to get just to the right level of heat so that it doesn't start boiling. Okay. The butter is pretty much melted. We're gonna watch for it to bubble just a little bit. Okay, you see that? It's just bubbling a tiny little bit. All right, this is bubbling, but I don't think boiling. I think it's the right consistency. Almost like a hollandaise. Parsley butter for the top of our Pinnekjøtt. Let's go eat.
Okay, we've been sizzling for just a few minutes now. You can see the meat is just falling off the bone here. But we're searing both sides of this Pinnekjøtt. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but that's okay. And it looks like the meat is at the right temperature here, and the pan is doing well, so we won't be able to leave it in here long because that's a lot of heat coming out of the outdoor fire pit. And it smells great up here. I see we're browning and blackening too, so we won't leave it on here long. I think I've flipped everything, so we're good.
I was just alerted that the food on the grill outside over our open fire is ready. So I have put some olive oil and salt and pepper on our baby potatoes. I have our KÅLRABISTAPPE, and I'm ready with some glasses for akavit, and we are going to go outside and have an outdoor feast with our friends.
We are dishing up the Pinnekjøtt with some butter, and what's that with the butter, Rachel?
This is a parsley butter.
A parsley butter.
And some lingonberry on the side. And baby potatoes could be put on the plate if they want. And our KÅLRABISTAPPE.
And here's my plate. I'm very excited. Happy New Year.
Okay. Here I am with my very professional spotlight in the outdoor dining environment with Heidi Eger, our sheep farmer from Radical Heart Farms. And you have a beautiful plate of Pinnekjøtt. Tonight is the night. What do you think after having your first bite?
It's really good. It's like very deeply flavored, very complex, and just really nice.
Is
very
it salty?
mild.
Are we worried
Not
about salt?
obsessively salty, no.
All right, the rinsing method helps.
No, it's
I
perfect.
rinsed it twice over a 24-hour period. I think
Okay.
it's helpful.
Yeah.
So, good.
It's
Would you
delicious.
say yay or nay to the parsley butter edition?
I haven't tried that part yet.
Okay, why don't you
I've tried it
unmask?
plain.
We want me to see as it's happening in real time your reaction.
Let's see, where is... Ah! So much pressure.
Landon, Landon is very intrigued by this all.
Is there lemon in it?
Yes.
The lemon's really good. I feel like it plays off the richness of the meat really nicely. Yum!
Yay! 2 thumbs up from both of us. Yay! Our Pinnekjøtt experiment has worked. We are successful.
Great success!
Ah, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Video.
Yes!
Skål! Cheers to the new year! Woo! Friends!
Yay.
Brought together by sheep. Aw. I mean, I don't know about you two, but at least Heidi and I.
Yes.
What brought you two together?
Bumble.
What?
Yeah.
Say more.
It's
The
the...
dating app?
Yeah.
No. Seriously?
In
Yeah.
the Twin Cities. Yeah.
Look at this. Dating apps work, people. They work.
Well, it's only been 2 years. We don't know.
It's been great.
No, it hasn't.
What? It doesn't matter because you're happy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the year was COVID, so that's like, that doesn't really count.
Counts as 4 years.
That counts as 104 years.
Yep.
Good job. Good job. All right. Well, skål to you both.
Skål.
Cheers. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It may be cold outside, but we're here with our friends, and that always makes things so much warmer and cozier. So here's a cheers to the New Year's, Norwegian style. Everybody, skål!
Skål to the new year.
Happy New Year. Skål.
Get my bubbles.
Thanks to the fire that helped finish our dinner tonight. And thanks to those wild, wacky Norwegians who decided steaming meat over birch sticks would be a good idea. And to all, a good night and a good happy new year. Godt, nytt, år.
So neat. Oh. Who would have known? You like the light more than I do now.
I'm gonna do it sideways.